All right, hello everybody. It is Tuesday, July 11th, and this is my 14-day CGM experiment. I am wearing a continuous glucose monitor, and I'm about 4 days in, and we'll talk about it, what's going on so far, and I will guide you through it and why I'm not concerned about my elevated glucose. It's, understanding context is everything, and yeah, it's kind of I have a belief that like information, knowledge is power. So the more knowledge you can get, the more information you have, the better your decisions can be. Now, 4 years ago, I was pre-diabetic. I have my blood sugar under control, and I try and do a CGM about every year just to see how my blood sugar is working, and there's a lot of information you can get out of it. And this is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. This is Anthony Stewart. This is food for thought, and we're questioning everything they've ever said. So a lot of things are in the blood sugar space. It can be very confusing. So first of all, I do believe blood tests are very useful, but I also believe that they are a timestamp, and without getting a baseline, it's kind of a little redundant. So, the problem is, what I've found with the modern medical system, specifically testing for blood sugar, is you're either good or you're not. And doing this CGM thing gives me a chance to sort of learn how my blood sugar is working, and if I have any questions, I can dig into the research and dig into some of the stuff to support it. Now, what we know is type 2 diabetes, obesity is running rampant. What I do know for myself, I am not obese. I have lost, we're getting up to about 70 plus pounds over 4 years. I've been on animal-based diet for 2 years, and my blood sugar has taken it's been interesting because I used to do the prick. I have my keto mojo, measuring my ketones all the time. I can pretty much tell when I'm in ketosis because I tend to be able to pee quite easily, and it just seems to flow. That also probably has a lot to do with electrolytes and water retention, but today we're going to talk glucose. Now, what do we know about glucose? I want to specify, this is my opinion, and I'm just trying to shed some light in how I come to these decisions and what my logic is behind it. Now, fasting glucose generally is about a teaspoon or ish. It's about 4 grams in your blood at all times. Anything else is your body deems it as toxic. We got to get rid of it. Therefore, insulin comes to play. Now, insulin resistance, whatever side of the fence you're on about it, I tend to follow the likes of Dr. Ben Bickman. I've read his book, Why We Get Sick, and his job is studying insulin. He's a professor at Brigham Young University. And, you can just listen to any talk. Maybe I'll post some links below about how he feels about insulin resistance and what it is. And then there's Bart Kay and the Randall cycle, which all kind of makes sense when you actually dissect what's going on. But here's the deal. Type 2 diabetes is elevated blood glucose intolerance. So whether you can argue about what insulin resistance is. If your insulin isn't working anymore and your blood glucose is getting higher and higher and higher, that is not good. Your body deals with things in a danger situation. So when your liver when your blood is when glucose is elevated in your blood, you need to produce insulin to bring it down. Now, somebody who's on a low carb diet, this changes a bit because you're using fat for energy, and there's something called gluconeogenesis, which is your liver creates and this is the beautiful thing. There is not one essential carbohydrate, which means your body needs to consume it for life. Your body is quite capable of making all the glucose it needs from your liver. It's called gluconeogenesis. We could take a deep dive into that, but that's for the doctors and the scientists. So this is from my perspective, but I just got to tell you a couple things about what it is. Now, from the research I've done, being a pre-diabetic, I know there's stuff called the Dawn phenomenon, and this affects type 1 and type 2 diabetics differently. Type 1 diabetes is very serious. Your body no longer, this is to sum it up, is no longer producing insulin. Whether your beta cells in your pancreas aren't producing the insulin required to bring your blood sugar back down to a normal level. Dangerous. Then, when you're dosing insulin, you can have a hypo excursion, which means your blood sugar dips too low and you need to eat sugar to get your body back to normal. And the problem is you can go on this roller coaster chasing it. Type 2 diabetes is different. It's elevated blood glucose. Your body's producing insulin, but the insulin's not working anymore. So that's why you can almost it's from a layman term looking at it, a type 2 diabetic generally will be bigger, holding body fat. A type 1 diabetic generally, and this is not in stone, but a type 1 diabetic will generally be skinny. The insulin isn't putting energy into cells. So what is insulin? Insulin, for this video, insulin is responsible for putting energy into cells. Blood sugar, using it for energy. So when you eat sugar, insulin gets triggered, pushes your blood sugar back down to normal because it's dealing with it. Okay, just for ease. Now I do a continuous glucose monitor because I want to know just how my blood sugar is working. Going to get a fasting glucose blood test, even a hemoglobin A1C in the context of me, because there is some stuff in the space about red blood cell turnover. So what, the glycation and sugar bonds to the hemoglobin, and over 3 months you can see what your average sugar in your blood would be, which is called the hemoglobin A1C. But it can be a little bit misleading because if you have longer lasting, more efficient red blood cells, that would mean they're holding on to the glucose a little longer. So that makes sense logically that your hemoglobin A1C could be a little bit more elevated. So there's a lot of context here, and this is just from my perspective why I think if you are concerned about blood sugar, I would recommend getting a CGM. They're about $100 in Canada, and the information is invaluable because you can see how your body is working and how your body processes sugar. Now, generally, what I've found was my blood sugar is like below normal or normal-ish, 5.2-ish in the mornings. When I wake up, I get a blood sugar spike. Generally goes up to about sometimes around 6, even higher. Then throughout the day, it just slowly comes down. Why is that happening? Well, it's called the dawn phenomenon, and this is a real thing. In the morning, when your body needs to wake up, it knows what to do, so it gives you a burst of cortisol, gives you a burst of glucose to get your body up, and it gives you a bit of energy. So that's kind of just around it. But this actually happens. Now, people that eat carbs first thing, so you get this dawn phenomenon, your blood sugar will go up a little bit, and then you eat sugar, and your blood sugar spikes, insulin gets produced, and it brings it back down to normal. That's like in a perfect world. Well, I don't eat in the mornings. I don't eat breakfast, and I don't eat sugar. So when this happens in the morning, generally my blood sugar takes a little bit of time to go back down to a normal range, but will eventually get there. By the evening, my blood sugar is way below normal, even after eating, and the bolus of protein, the amount of food I eat, spikes my insulin a little bit, even pushes my blood sugar down lower. So I'm not worried about big, astronomical, dangerous blood sugar excursions. I'm looking to see how my blood sugar is reacting, and then when I do eat sugar, to test my metabolic flexibility, and this is how I do it. So in 3 days, and I'm going to keep doing these videos just to sort of show you, and I'll put the pictures up as I go. So here's some things that I've learned over 3 days. So what this is my daily graph, and I'll show the picture. And I started on July 8th at 9 in the morning, pretty much bang on. And what happened was I tested it, and my blood sugar was like a 5.2. I immediately did some heavy work, anaerobic exercise. What do you think what happens? Your body's using sugar. The sugar has to be replaced. So boom, my blood sugar spikes. After about an hour of lifting heavy logs, I was actually moving some logs, and these were heavy, like really heavy stuff. My blood sugar went up. And then, as you can see, because I'll put up the picture here, my blood sugar over the day went back down to a normal range. Went to bed, low. Right? The next morning, woke up, it bumped up a little bit, and then kind of dipped right down before I woke up, and it went spiked, whatever. But it stayed around the same thing, did some more work the next day at around 10 in the morning, and look what happened. My blood sugar went up again, and then it starts to go down. I ate food, and it pushed my blood sugar down around dinner time, around 6. And then the next day, so I'll put that up there. Then the next day, this was yesterday, This was fascinating. Okay, so now what I'm trying to do with this experiment is to see what my normal range is, and what I'm looking for is steady, like consistency, no big jumps. And what happened, and I'll show you here, was around 4 o'clock, we were at a market, and they're known for their ice cream. Why not indulge? Let's do an experiment. So I ate a single serving, a single scoop of ice cream, and look what happened. My blood sugar went up from below normal to almost 12 in a matter of less than an hour. And then it dropped crazy, like straight up and straight down. And it went, and actually my CGM alarm went off, and I was at like danger, blood sugar at 3. Now, most people, if you were a type 1 diabetic, that would be very dangerous, very severe. In my situation, I didn't even feel nothing. I didn't feel like I was, tired, nothing. It was just what that big spike does is that shows that my insulin is working. Blood sugar goes up, a big injection of sugar, insulin gets triggered, brings my blood sugar back down. In this case, my insulin looks like it's working really well and comes back up to normal range. Now I'm riding below normal. And then for dinner, because I already had sugar, and I thought, well, let's see what happens when I eat a burger and fries. I haven't had a bun in over a year, but I was like, you know what, this is the time to do it. Let's see what happens. So then you can see it at the end, and this was around 9 o'clock because we had to catch a ferry, and so I'm on the ferry. I have a burger and fries. Look what happens to my blood sugar. Bam, it goes up. Then this morning, it goes back down in the morning, and then it comes back up again. So there's another phenomenon it's the Chinese laundry or Chinese restaurant phenomenon, where it's your gastric emptying. So there was probably some sugar. I don't eat a lot of fiber, so that explains this pattern. Goes right back down to lower range. By the time I wake up this morning at 8:30, bump, I get a spike, and my blood sugar is a little elevated. So what I've learned from this is my insulin is working. I don't have symptomatic type 2 diabetes. And I mean, there might be some doctors out there right now that are going, you got diabetes. I would argue not. Every single symptom, there's not, it's just, this can be explained. And now, my blood sugar, as of right now, because I did some breathing, I did a workout, wasn't a big, very heavy workout, but let's test it. And this is really easy. Just a little beep. And my blood sugar is at a diabetic 6.2. Well, arguably. It's a little higher than normal. But I'm not worried about that because I'm going to eat some food. And then what's going to happen is it's going to push my blood sugar perfectly normal. And generally, this 6.2 will just keep going down slowly, throughout the day. And by the time I eat dinner, but I'm going to have some dinner, some lunch today because I've got a nice, beautiful steak and eggs. Why not? And so this CGM is an information tool. Not only can I see how my blood sugar is working, but when you look and actually understand how blood sugar works, there might be some cause for concern. Now, this is only 3 or 4 days. If I notice that my blood sugar is staying very high, I might be a little bit more concerned. But the way the pattern is working and what I know about how glucose in your body works, it's pretty explanatory, and there's nothing to be concerned about. I'm sure by the next week, my average blood sugar, my A1C, so to speak, will be fine, perfect. But this was a good indication of showing how these spikes work. And for all the people that don't realize how much sugar affects your blood sugar, why not try it? All doctors will tell you you don't need it. I would argue the opposite and say, if you think you have any kind of issues with blood sugar, why not do it for 14 days? Don't change anything and just see, and it's just a test. You don't have to prick your finger anymore, just a beep, beep, beep. So this is information. This is perfect to understand your context, show you some data that you can research further. So This is going to go on for 14 days. I'll keep you updated. This is after 4 days. Thought I'd show you what's going on and my logic behind not freaking out right now because of elevated blood sugar. It can be explained, and it's not that high. I mean, when you're talking, some diabetics are, like if this was an American, they're in the 160 to 260 range. This is just around 100, which normal range is probably around between 85 and 90 something. So is it a little high? Yes. Am I worried about it? No. At this point, this is information gathering. I am learning about my body and, making sense of this stuff. This is a tool to use, and I think it's a great tool that's, relatively affordable. And when your health's on the line, if you eat a lot of carbs, why not try it? Once you see how your blood sugar works, you're going to know that you're going to see these things in progress. Now, I'm not perfect. And, I'm doing things the way I do things. I just wanted to shed some light on my 14-day CGM. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you use a CGM, if your blood sugar is any kind of weird anomalies. I'm going to show you how I interpret blood work and how I do things. Thanks for tuning in, and stay strong.